Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna. I am with one of the most important Kirtaniyas for Western devotees. This name is a big name. Many of you who crossed the 80s, 90s era of Krishna consciousness were listening music from different artists. One of those names was the big Vaiyasaki Das. Happens that today, by Kripa, I am with him in his house and we will have a super interview for you all. Familia, estoy increíblemente feliz porque finalmente, después de más de 20 años de escuchar a uno de mis artistas favoritos de la música de Krishna, he podido conocerle aquí en Vrindavan. Hoy día tenemos una entrevista con él y estoy listo para ver todo lo del mundo del Kirtan y del Bhajan. Very welcome, Vaiyasaki Das, to Gaura Sangha here in YouTube, that we are speaking about Krishna consciousness and all related to this. It has been like over 20 years of my life that I have been listening to your music and very inspired from your sound from the very beginning. Through your music, I discovered something new on my early times in Krishna consciousness and in Kirtan, because you play some kind of sound that before seeing your first pictures, I was thinking in my mind was, oh, this must be like a old Baba living in Vrindavan with harmonium chanting, you know, like a very like a idea of a sage from the Vedic eras. And when I saw your picture, oh, the Prabhuji is Western devotee, and I start realizing, okay, so how he can play this style of music so beautiful, colorful and deep in same time. And then later on, I discovered one of your tutorial videos about how to play Kirtan and how to play harmonium. And then you explained that you had a trip to India and you learned about the ragas and you show some exercise, classical exercise in harmonium. And since that time, I started playing harmonium and training originally in a keyboard, a small keyboard. So, well, now, after all this time, I am here with you. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to be here and to listen from you about the art of Kirtan.
Yes, it is an art from the heart. We have to open the heart and express our devotion to the Lord. So that's what Kirtan really is. Actually, the word Kirtan means to glorify. So we can glorify by writing, or we can glorify by words, or we can glorify by singing. So the singing is the most emotional. It's the most devotional, most intimate way of connecting. That's Kirtan. Devotion is in the heart. Krishna is in our heart. The whole process of bhakti-yoga takes place in the heart, nowhere else.
Right.
It's not done with the hands and legs, it's done with the heart and soul.
I hear in your video that, and also researching around back in time, that you were one of the first, or maybe the first Western devotee who came to India to study and bring the sound of the classical raga to Western culture. Is it?
Well, I was there in the beginning, so automatically I'm one of the first, you know.
Right. So you are a disciple of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
Right.
In which year you met him?
Well, I met him 3 different ways. In 1969, I met him through his Back to Godhead magazine, through his disciples, when I heard a Sankirtan party on the street chanting Hare Krishna, and they gave me a magazine, Back to Godhead. So that was my first, that was in Canada, 1969 in Toronto. Then I went to London, and in 1972, I met the devotees again on the Sankirtan party on the street. This time they took me to the temple, and I saw the deities for the first time, Sri Sri Radha London Ishwara. And then I purchased some books. I started reading Bhagavad Gita. So that was my second introduction to Prabhupada,
Right.
was through the Bhagavad Gita, and also through the devotees.
Yes.
So through the devotees and back to God, and then through the devotees and reading Bhagavad Gita. And so then I became convinced, and then I met Srila Prabhupada personally, face to face, one-on-one in 1973 at the London Rath Yatra.
Wow.
And then he stayed at Bhaktivedanta Manor, and I was out there and, had darshan, several times. That was the beginning.
So your three connections to Srila Prabhupada through Kirtan and Harinam was through sound.
Yeah, right. And the
Wow.
books.
What was your impression when you met Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada first time?
Well, by that time, I was already convinced that let me try this bhakti-yoga process.
All right.
And if something better comes along, I can always move on. But let me try this now. So I was sincerely trying. So, reading his books, I was convinced that this is very deep, very profound.
Yes.
Más profundo.
See.
So therefore I surrendered. I kind of surrendered. And I didn't ask many questions. I just went with the flow. I just surrendered and just followed the process without asking questions. I was studying the books, but I was already, when I first came and met the devotees, I was already vegetarian. I was already into yoga in 1969. I was already reading and studying yoga and different gurus. So Prabhupada was just the next guru that I was studying.
Right.
But he was the most profound, and so I took it up the most serious. But I always was thinking, well, if another thing comes along, I'll move. But nothing ever came along that was better. This was the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. When you decide, or you were already into music, or you decide to start?
Well, I began my music career at age 6, when my mother sent me for violin lessons.
In which year? Sorry.
When I was 6 years old.
6 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was 9 years old, she sent me for studying music theory.
All right.
And then I played in the orchestra, the school orchestra. I sang in the school choir. But when I became a teenager, I became attracted by the blues.
All right.
And rock music.
Okay.
So I switched from violin to guitar. And then after a year or so, I formed a band, and then I was traveling in a group and playing music all over the country. So I've been a musician and a singer from the beginning.
This back in Canada?
Yeah.
Right.
Started in Canada, yeah. Yeah. I was born in London, but at age 5, my parents emigrated to Canada. And that's why I went back to London and met the devotees in London again, and met Prabhupada in London, because I was interested in my roots. This is where I was born. What is it like?
Yes.
So I was educated and I grew up in Canada, but I came back to London. And then then I got my second birth with Srila Prabhupada and bhakti-yoga. So I got first birth in London and second birth in London.
All right. Yes, true. Wow, how interesting story. And then you switched to start playing kirtan, or you went to try to...
I liked the kirtan. I loved the kirtan. The first kirtan I ever heard was by the Bengali devotees in Canada.
Oh, right.
And that was fantastic. That brought tears to my eyes. The Western devotees, they could not do kirtan at the same level as the Bengalis. So gradually they got better and better, and I became more and more dedicated to it. And when in 1975, Srila Prabhupada requested some of us to come to India. So I volunteered. I came to India. And that's when I really got into the Bengali style of kirtan.
Wow.
I began to study it. And I started studying Bengali language also. I first came to Vrindavan in 1975, but in 1976 I shifted to Mayapur. And I was very serious. I wanted to know everything about the Shastra, so I was studying Sanskrit.
Wow.
Studying Sanskrit, learning Devanagari and everything. And then at the same time, I was reading Prabhupada's books. So I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada commented that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had stated that the Bengali of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is so beautiful, and the philosophy and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are so beautiful that people from the West will one day come to Mayapur to study Bengali, to taste the nectar of Chaitanya Charitamrita. After I read that, I gave up studying Sanskrit and I started studying Bengali, because I wanted to be the ones that he prophesied would come and study Bengali. I wanted to be the one that he spoke about.
And did you manage?
Yeah, so I became a Bengali speaker. I could read and write and speak in Bengali.
Wow.
I still speak in Bengali, yeah.
Wow. Can you say something in Bengali?
Yeah, amar kirtan khub bhalo lage. Ontore amar mon khub. I'm at a loss of words. Basically, I'm saying that my heart and my soul and my heart and my mind are very much attracted to Kirtan.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there you were living in Mayapur back in time, huh?
Yeah, 1976. I had a lot of association in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada requested us to come to India, so I had more association in India, a lot. So we were here in the early days. The Vrindavan temple had just been opened in 75 when I came. And one of my first services was traveling Sankirtan. So I was traveling all over India.
Yes.
And I went to places where devotees had never been before, and I distributed books and preached to people who never even knew that about Prabhupada had gone to the West and made devotees in the West. They saw me coming, and I was a Vaishnava. I knew everything. They were amazed. How is this possible?
Yes. It's like from another planet.
Yeah. And then in 1978, I began to study the Raga Kirtan. I met some professional musicians and singers who were unbelievable. Amazing singers, amazing musicians, amazing drummers and singers. And I just dedicated myself for 3 years studying these ragas and learning to sing like they were singing. So I was learning from them, how to do it. Just open the heart, close your eyes, and just sing. And at a certain point, Paramatma takes over. Your heart opens and Krishna is there, and the kirtan goes to a whole different level. And I know that it's not me. It's at a much higher level now, coming from Paramatma. And then people will come to me and say, wow, we've never heard kirtan like that. I say, well, it's not me. I can't sing like that. That's Krishna's kripa. That's what you heard was Krishna's mercy. It's not me.
Yes, absolutely. Nowadays, what are you playing? What kind of sound are you producing?
So we finish the last kirtan. This raga is called Jai Jayanti.
thank you very much for this time of you and for accepting the interview and for enlightening us all with your words and your music. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me.